All right. Good evening to everybody watching live. I am excited to have another edition of Eyes Wide Open. Hans Utter Investigates, the the radio show that it turns out that already existed. I know I did something and it turns out that it's all over the internet. But if you really search hard, you can find this new iteration of the show, and I'm just very excited to do this, and I'm even more pleased to be joined by Mr. William Ramsey, who I'm sure everybody knows is one of the foremost broadcasters, investigators, writers out there, and just an actual genuine good human being who's not a media wacko. Like, let's just say that in a gentle way. So
Not yet.
Not yet. Oh my God. Well, yes, you get on my show a couple more times. Right. So, and today I had the perfect green screen. I knocked the light over. So I'll just say a few opening words on that. The fundamental resilience of your life that one has potentially, never deny this, right? So when you look at a mode of weakness, we talked about Trump derangement syndrome, when you become like Holden Caulfield, when you lose yourself to suffering, when you make your victimhood a badge, when you create yourself as basically as a cardboard cutout in someone else's array. Stand true, stand proud, just do what you're doing. And you know what? You'll find all these different doors open. So a lot of these things are really, we have a tendency, right, for weakness. Every human has a tendency for weakness. Every human has a tendency potentially for evil, for dissoluteness, for laxity, for self-pity, whatever you want to call it. These are things you try to move beyond them. And then all this stuff will have a much limited effect on you. But, so we're going to go ahead and dive back into The Catcher in the Rye, which is really a seminal book. And I'll just share a couple personal things. So one personal thing is my wife, who's from Assam, India, literally from a warrior princess from the ancient kings of Assam. But every time I complain, she says, "Hey, pan," like a baby. So I cannot complain about anything. I learned that it's a good thing. Don't complain. Just do it, deal with it, rectify it, whatever that takes, but just drop that out of your life, right? It serves no purpose. Okay, second thing, shows. So I just did a big show with the symphony orchestra playing tabla on Saturday, that was major gig, but I'm playing this Thursday at the Berwick Party Manor from 6 to 9 p.m. I'm playing Tuesday at the Vedic Temple, playing sitar from 4:30 to 5:30. That's next Tuesday. And I'm playing the 27th of February. I'm also playing the 26th, but I don't recall the venue. And 27th, I'm playing at the Ginger Rabbit, again in Columbus, Ohio. It's a very upscale jazz venue. And so that's it. And without further ado, let us dive into The Catcher in the Rye. William, pleasure to have you here. Really grateful.
Hans, great to be with you again. I'm excited for another show. I've learned a lot even in the 2 weeks since we did our last show. So I've added some more material, some more slides. We can probably go over some of the old slides, but we're going to go into some more Bremer stuff Bremer stuff with Taxi Driver. And then I've got Mission Mind Control, which I think is pretty mind-blowing. You're muted.
And so let me, and by the way, my website, I have my website. Labor negotiations are finished. So it's all going to be dialed in. And, just real quick, what was my technique? My web team is based in India. I just pointed at myself and I said, white privilege, dude. Do what I say. White privilege. And it was I actually experienced white privilege. Just kidding. Just a joke. But I mean, I just pointed at myself, the silent thing. So, anyway, so let's, William, why don't you go ahead and begin wherever you want to, and we'll just go on this trip.
Well, we left off. I had 40 slides. We read stuff about let's see, Hinckley and Chapman, and then we watched a little bit of chapter 27, the one with Jared Leto. And I had a lot more material, so I kind of expanded and added more slides to my presentation. So now I think I have 70 when I had 40 before. And I don't know if I had this one 65 million copies worldwide. So it's just incredible. Did we talk about that? But yeah. Anyway, huge amount. But I got more into this kind of the inspiration of Hinckley, of Travis Bickle, this character from Taxi Driver, which was a film from I think 76, which was his figure was based on this guy Arthur Bremer, who shot George Wallace. People don't remember Wallace. He was kind of like a Southern politician who we're going to show some videos that are pretty scary. I actually find them very disturbing because this film kind of emulates real life. And then Hinckley took on the characteristics of Travis Bickle. So while Chapman was trying to become Holden Caulfield, or morphed into Holden Caulfield, Hinckley, who tried to shoot Reagan in March of 81, tried to become Travis Bickle. So it's fiction. Reality influences fiction, influences reality. Like, it's not believable. So the lines are fuzzed. I think they're kind of fuzzy lines, actually. So
Let me just interject for a second. Is that, so Travis Bickle, there was a guy that I played in a band with for a long time, looked exactly like him and got the mohawk, and you could not tell them apart. And he would wear the same clothing and recite Taxi Driver words. How many people have we seen in the red hunting caps? Okay, so this, I mean, obviously you don't see so much, but these are things, sort of archetypes you can witness in your day-to-day life, right? I think, maybe not so much now, but I mean, in the past, you could see people who would take on the persona of these characters just in normal discourse.
Right. But I mean, this guy went and tried to change world history. It's really crazy. But also this theme in Taxi Driver, pedophilia too. But this is the president has been shot. And Hinckley identified with Travis and began to act like him after he'd seen the film 15 times. He bought the same clothes, ate the same foods, drank the same liquors, and invented a girlfriend just as had Bickle. So he had this invented girlfriend in Jodie Foster. So this identification thing is taking place. That's Bardo. I think we covered that. I don't know what I put in there. I did more. I think I put in more of the.
Maybe we just, if you don't mind, let's just go through these again, because just touch
Okay.
back on Bardo, and some of these are interesting. I don't know if we went through all these actual newspaper clippings. So yeah, go ahead.
I don't think we did, but Bardo was another one of these kind of program killers or whatever. He had an obsession with this woman, Rebecca Schaefer, who was 21, but he had a copy of the Catcher in the Rye. So it's a red paperback copy of Catcher in the Rye was found on the roof of the Beverly Palms Rehabilitation Center on Beverly Boulevard. Bardo indicated he threw a red-covered paperback book entitled The Catcher in the Rye in the alley while he was running. Discovery of the book harked back to 1981 shooting of former Beatle John Lennon by one-time mental patient Mark David Chapman in New York City. So the obsessed fan shot the rock singer. He took out a copy of the J.D. Salinger novel, and sat down and read it while he was waiting. But these are kind of ones where both Hinckley and Chapman are mentioned in the same kind of page. It's incredible. So 20-year sentence. And remember, Chapman was a lot like Sirhan. They both pled guilty. So they avoided trial, right? Because they pled guilty, which is also strange. They had the same, I think we mentioned last time, they had the same MK Ultra doctor, Diamond, right? So Chapman is connected to Sirhan, believe it or not, who's supposedly shot JFK. JFK Jr. is now a member of this administration. Weird defense. Hinckley's, yeah, that's a young Hinckley. This is Bardo carried the Catcher in the Rye in his assassin's kit to kill actress. And if people watch TV, this guy Park Dietz is on there as an expert all the time. He's always an expert.
I don't mean to interrupt, but this last paragraph is Process Church all over it. when you get to that, just throwing that out there. This is process church stuff. Go ahead.
But the Bardo was not insane when he killed the actress, but suffered from a schizophrenic disorder known as splitting, which hampered his ability to form the intent for murder. Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
So he alternated between seeing Schaefer as all evil or all good, but was not aware of the shift in his emotions. Wow.
That's process church where they worship both Christ and Satan.
Right. So
and they shift between these polarities.
Wow.
Yeah. And Lennon, of course, well, no, McCartney was in the process church.
Wow. Yeah. So this is like, but he was smart enough. This is what's strange about Bardo. He hired detectives to track her down. So he was conscious. Like, I think one of the tests of insanity is like you're not able to rationalize. Bardo was able to do stuff to plot, like premeditation. This is like another interesting article where they're both, it's at the same time. They're talking about Hinckley and Chapman in the same page, which is pretty incredible. And here's another accused killer had a copy of Catcher. That's Schaefer there with, I think, her parents. But we covered that. That's these films, The Catcher in the Rye, Shoot People in This Hat. We've gone through the Fenton Bresler stuff. Whose favorite book is this? George Bush interview, June 2nd, 1995. What does he say? There was a marvelous book by Salinger called Catcher in the Rye. Was there a book that inspired you? Question. Answer. There was a marvelous book by Salinger called Catcher in the Rye. Who was the chief beneficiary of Reagan dies? George Bush, right? Because he was vice president. Next question. Best books I read in 2013. International Ghoul, Bill Gates. Quote, you may notice that there aren't any novels on my list this year. It's not that I don't enjoy fiction. I've read A Catcher in the Rye a bunch of times. It's one of my favorite books ever. You can't make this up. People can go and read this. It's from Bill Gates. It said the best books I read in 2013.
Well, if Bill Gates reads it, I mean, I think that the goal for 2025 would be for everybody listening to find your inner Bill Gates and let it flow.
I don't know if that's a good idea, man. He's a monster.
He's a monster that's the thing. He's the monster. It's like the wolf in sheep's clothing, but it's like, it's actually amazing. So, I mean, the one thing I like to focus on is also the way that media informs the collective consciousness or collective. And so if you don't mind, go back to that George Bush thing and just look at the context he put it in. Let's contextualize it. Was there a book that inspires me? So listen to this. One of the historians here in Williamsburg, where he is, talked about War and Peace. I had to read that in school. It was an inspiring, lengthy treatise. I read it twice. It taught me a lot about life. So that's War and Peace, right? That's actual literature. There was a marvelous book by Salinger called Catcher in the Rye. But because of that rambling, what you have coming in beforehand, that one sentence just pings and sticks in your mind. It's centered in the page, and so I just want to say that this really, if you skim this is being, your mind is directed towards this very concise sentence. You know what I mean? The other things are kind of rambling. Both of them are rambling and whatever, but this one sentence in the center is the actual focus of what he's saying.
I think you're right. There was a marvelous book by Salinger called Catcher in the Rye. There was a book about discrimination called Gentleman's Agreement. These books, I think, helped shape my life. So how much different are Bush and Gates from the apostle of Catcher in the Rye, Mark David Chapman, right? So they're putting it into the consciousness just like he was. I think that's all intentional. These two world controllers, whatever you want to call them, oligarchs. I mean, I think the Bush family owns like tons of BlackRock stock, so they own basically the corporate America. And that's the rumor. But so this is Ruth. This is the guy who literally was on like traveling around, much like Chapman, able to move around in places. This is the second Trump assassin, right? He tried to kill Trump at West Palm Beach, but he literally lived about 5 miles away from where Chapman did on the eastern shore of Oahu, which is very suspect. This guy's super suspicious. He acts really weird. That's the supposed killer crooks of the first one. And Butler. The Good Girl was kind of based on, I don't know if we talked about this, was the movie was based upon Catcher in the Rye type stuff. This is the movie we saw, chapter 27, or what, like the intro last time when we finished up. Jared Leto gained a bunch of weight.
Well, you know that Winona Ryder's favorite book is Catcher in the Rye, and she owns every edition.
Wow.
She owns.
I'm writing that down. I gotta find that.
So, and her godfather was Timothy Leary. So Winona Ryder's favorite book, and she's a collector. She's not just like, I read it, on in the bathroom. I own every edition of Catcher in the Rye.
Wow.
Yeah.
Her real last name is Horowitz. Her dad was Leary's archivist. And we can talk about her connections to the West Memphis Three. She's a West Memphis Three promoter and Depp girlfriend at one point or something like that. The whole thing gets weird. But this is an interesting thing from chapter 27. I don't think we saw this last time, but it was that he had an affinity for the Wizard of Oz, another known kind of mind control tale that hypnotized people or whatever. So this is from chapter 27. Hold in the meaning, Gracious Valley or something. I don't know. This is the call. I don't know if we talked about that. There's Ruth. Just like he's an intel guy.
What's the call? I'm not familiar with that.
The call is like the thing over his name, Holden Caulfield is his name. The call is over his face, and that gives him in folklore, call was believed to bestow second sight or the ability to see in the future.
I'm sorry. I thought you said I wasn't seeing the slide. I just sent you a link of all the cultural references to Catcher in the Rye from Wikipedia. Okay. So that's in the chat. So I thought you said the call. I'll pull it up. But that's very interesting. So in a sense, that this book is like a veiling. It's like it is a type of it's a type of an occult interjection into the American psyche, a very powerful thing that I have the statistics. I think and this is read by kids, the number of goddams, where I put that, it's a very high number. The number of goddams, the number of even the F word and several other swear words. Where did I? It's like 200. I believe it's like 253 uses of the word "goddamn" in Catcher in the Rye. I mean, really high, high usages of these words. So
it's repetitive, just like Madman or I will. Kind of the stuff I talked about last time. It's intense. This is the other one tied to Mangione. The NYPD claims to have found the CEO shooter's backpack near the carousel in Central Park. So, that's where that ends, right? With Holden Caulfield and his sister Phoebe. And this is the tie to Arthur Bremer, which I'll get into here in a minute. But it's just like Hinckley was inspired by Bremer and all the kind of writing style, the dirty words and stuff. But I actually found something, like I'm trying to find the cultural history to this. And this book is The Cultural Cold War, the CIA and the World of Arts and Letters by Francis Stoner Saunders. There's actually a reference to Salinger as kind of like a culture creation, right? So this book came out in 1951.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it says, many of our friends, including Muggeridge and Irving Brown, have the same wish, or urging Spender. Stephen Spender was an important cultural figure, kind of lost to history, but to open literary pages to a new generation of American writers like Saul Bellow, J.D. Salinger, Truman Capote, or Shirley Ann Grau. So there's an intel connection between this kind of group that was named The Encounter. Dulles and Foster Dulles are mentioned in the same page, and then Salinger too. So that's kind of the trail I'm kind of following. Also, the fact that I found out Sex in the American Male was published in 1948. So all this stuff about like half the American men are gay is in this book after kind of Kinsey's book, which was fully Rockefeller supported. Like, it's total baloney. But yeah, so those are the slides. Let me see if I can pull this up. Present what you sent me. Cultural references to Catcher in the Rye. Wow. Bestseller, frequently challenged. Rewrites. The novel also popularized the slang verb screw up. Wow.
Screw up. So that's and the thing that the Catcher in the Rye, he's narrating it from a mental hospital. Are you familiar? I mean, so I've seen, yeah. So in a sense, this is the. I mean, there's no question that this it's a precursor to like the One Who Flew the Cuckoo's Nest. It's tied in with the Kinsey Report, and I'll hit a few like deeper things with Salinger's history. But it's just amazing that I mean, the mental hospital, it's sort of the whole culture becomes the MK Ultra laboratory, which, it took about 50 years for that to happen. But this is the inception.
Wow, this is crazy. I didn't know some of these references. I think I did the Good Girl, but Igby Goes Down, Rebel in the Rye. I've seen that. There's The Shining, Weathering with You, romantic comedy Hitman. Wow, who's in that? Interesting.
Influenced The Shining.
Yeah.
It influenced The Shining. So well, I guess that's a picture, so I don't know if it influenced, but that's we already saw that. Yep.
Wow. Hitman, Ghost in the Shell, South Park episode. I have that if you want to watch it. I don't know if you want to watch it. Do you want to watch the South Park episode?
Sure, yeah.
Let me see if I can pull it up.
Notice the 2017 Criminal Minds episode, False Flag, season 13, episode 9 was based around Catcher in the Rye,
Wow.
a book important to members of the truthers community in Roswell, New Mexico.
Wow.
Kill John Lennon. Kill John Lennon. Kill John Lennon. Kill John Lennon. Hey, Dad, where does John Lennon live?
John Lennon's dead, Butters.
Ah, dang it.
Well, that's not the full one. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see. Present, share screen, Y to present, video file. There it is. Okay, this is the longer one, I think.
Okay, kids, let's take our seats. There has been a change in school policy, and so I'm assigning you all a book to read.
Ah, book? God, I hate those.
Now, kids, this book is very controversial and has just been taken off the banned books list.
Oh, really? Sweet.
It's called Catcher in the Rye, and it has some very risque parts.
All right.
And strong, vulgar language.
Yes, it is.
And in fact, many schools across the country still ban this book because it's thought to be so inappropriate.
Oh, man, I can't wait.
Tonight I want you to read chapters 1 through 5, and tomorrow we'll discuss the...
No, come on, let's read it now. Mr. Garrison, didn't the guy who shot John Lennon say it was because of this book?
Yes, apparently John Lennon's killer said he was inspired by Catcher in the Rye, but he was just a kook.
Whoa, you're telling us this book is filthy, inappropriate, and made a guy shoot the king of hippies? Can we please read this right now?
You will read it at home, and you will all be mature about its adult themes and language.
Yeah, so if you make it to South Park, you're made something. But let's go back and talk. Well, I want to show you stuff about Arthur Bremer, right? So Arthur Bremer is the assassin of, I think this is really creepy video. Maybe you'll think so too. But this is Arthur, like once you see Taxi Driver, then you see this, it's like, whoa, this is crazy, because they clearly used stuff from let me see, Arthur Bremer, they use clips or scenes from this for Taxi Driver. Like, it's crazy. So let me show this. Present, cancel, video file. Watch this. So Arthur Bremer is the shooter of This guy, George Wallace. But he's in the crowd. Like, you'll see him in the crowd.
That's crazy.
He's giving a speech. It's almost like parallax view. That's Arthur Bremer. Do you see the glasses with the hair drawn back?
That guy right there in the front.
Yes. He's literally at the front, like clapping.
Wow.
Around. Yeah. No, it gets worse. Watch this.
And look at the numbers 1727. So whatever.
You can watch this again. I wish I had audio. So that's Arthur Bremer. He's got his tie on. He's smiling. He's clapping. Watch this. That's him. This is him in the crowd right there. That's him vigorously clapping, right?
But he has. So again, the media, even guys, I'm noticing things I don't want people to think. Notice the 292491111. He's being whatever that may or may not mean anything, but he's being focused on of all the people in the crowd. He is even a subconscious primary draw. Like, you know what I mean? And that is like, he's right in the center of that frame. If you do whatever the rule of the golden ratio, rule of thirds, whatever. I mean, he's like, it's not, maybe it's just, maybe it's, coincidence, but that's very odd. You know what I mean? Like, it almost seems like, oh, he's primed and we're just going to put this in your subconscious before we activate him, or he just does it. I don't know.
It's really disturbing. But it's in 72, and Wallace was running like a campaign. He was running a campaign as a Democratic candidate. So I think he was going up against McGovern and Humphrey or something like that. So I think he would have been up against Nixon, right? So it was during the kind of stuff. But this shooting took place on May 15th, 1972. So you'll see the whole video here. Like, it's crazy. But you're right. They have this guy. Watch this.
But just to say, like, even that timestamp, right? 7/4, which is 11/0/11, right? 9249, which is 11/11, and then the date of the adds up with the dates of the assassination. Again, maybe accidental, but then some of these things, again, you see this kind of numerology and just as a layer on top of this undergirding.
It's incredible. Yeah, watch this. His family had no idea that he was capable of doing this. Way out of character. This is live footage. It's like literally getting blown away. He is turned into a paraplegic. So Bremer shot comes in, shoots this. So this is the inspiration for Taxi Driver, this guy. 4 shots.
This guy shoots him, but he's in the frame. Multiple shots. You know what I mean? Like, that's wild. Okay. Wild meaning that's, okay, go ahead.
It's not explicable. Like, how do they know to get this guy Arthur Bremer so many times? This is him. This is what he looks like. Like, kind of a mild-mannered guy. Like, it's off the charts. And then let's watch De Niro going to, this is the same kind of sequence. It's De Niro going to a politician. His name is Palatine in the movie Taxi Driver. But this is it. Watch this. It's the same kind of vibe.
Today I say to you, we have reached the turning point. No longer will we the people suffer for the few. Now, I would lie to you if I told you the new roads would be easy. They will not be easy. Nothing that is right and good has ever been easy. We the people know that. And we the people know the right roads and the good. Today I say to you, we are the people, you and I, and it is time to let the people rule. Thank you.
I think those are the words that JFK said when JFK got shot. They said, give him some air. So I think that's intentional. RFK, sorry. Oh, you're muted. I can't hear you.
No, I was talking to my wife. So.
Okay. And then here's another one. This is about Bremer. Oh, let's watch this. Share screen. Oops.
And just the word Palatine. Palatine comes from the medieval Latin.
Palatine comes from what?
The medieval Latin Palantinus, which means of the palace, and it was someone working in the prince's palace, possessing royal privileges, having an enormous amount of power. So yeah. So anyways,
it's intentional. I think there's a Palatine Hill in Rome, or Palatine or Palatine. I don't know which one it was. Okay, this is kind of more interesting. This is color of Bremer doing the shooting. Can you hear that? Do you hear the screaming?
Yeah.
Arthur Bremer shot Alabama Governor George Wallace on May 15, 1972, while Wallace was holding a presidential campaign rally in Laurel, Maryland. Police immediately arrested Bremer, and after they learned his identity, Secret Service and FBI agents searched Bremer's Milwaukee apartment. Inside, they found a Confederate flag and .38 caliber bullets like the ones used to shoot Wallace. Bremer's father and his brother couldn't believe it.
There's no explanation for if it was him, his behavior, and what had happened. There's no explanation we can give at all.
Neighbors said Bremer was odd.
He never had many friends with him. He was always like a loner.
The 21-year-old loner from Milwaukee was convicted and sentenced to prison. Now, with a long, scraggly beard and a receding hairline, Bremer appears to have aged a lot in the last 10 years. His warden describes Bremer as a model prisoner who doesn't have many friends.
I can't say categorically that he does not have any friends or associates in here, but he's not the type of inmate that walks in a group in the yard or is with a group of people in the rec halls. He's basically a loner.
The Maryland Parole Commission recently refused to move up the date when Bremer will first be eligible for parole. Meanwhile, George Wallace is running for governor of Alabama again. We went to a campaign rally in tiny Aniana, Alabama, and asked Wallace how he feels about Arthur Bremer.
I have forgiven him for shooting me, and I hope that he's asked forgiveness for having shot me.
Right, so his family doesn't know how he did it. Like, why is he doing this stuff? So it's kind of interesting. But get this, there's an intelligence tie to this whole thing. I don't know.
Check it out. William, I know I'm maybe a little high for, but did you see that little 25th frame flash right before they showed Wallace? Right at the end? I don't. Anyways, there was a little
frame.
You know that's like where basically 25th frame is. That's like where it becomes a singular event. It's sort of the transition becomes subconscious. There was a little flash of a blue frame in that clip. You don't need to go over it now, but I'm just throwing it out there. So yeah,
I'm not surprised. But this whole story, so it goes into detail because The character of Travis Bickle was inspired by Bremer's diary, but there's an intel because this is from Seymour Hersh. He's claimed that a secret recording of Nixon proved that within hours of the assassination attempt of Wallace, a president and a top aide dispatched a political operative, E. Howard Hunt, to Milwaukee with plans to surreptitiously enter Bremer's apartment and plant the campaign literature of Democratic contender George McGovern. According to Hersh, Hunt aborted the operation because the FBI had sealed off Bremer's apartment prior to his arrival. In his memoir, Hunt reports the day after the assassination attempt, he received a call from Chuck Colson, notorious for saying, "Grab them by the balls and their hearts and minds will follow." That was the dictum on his desk. Asking him to break into Bremer's apartment and plant leftist literature to connect him to the Democrats. Hunt recalls that he was highly skeptical of the plan due to the apartment being guarded by the FBI. G. Gordon Liddy also discusses the plan in his memoir. So all these right-wing figures are talking about planting stuff. And then the question is, was the diary of Bremer a plant in itself, right? That's like people have asked that question. And it actually comes up in E. Howard Hunt's biography. Like he goes, "No, I deny it," which probably means it's true if he denies it. But this is a quote from Bremer's diary. Milwaukee, this is May 4th. When was the assassination? May 15th. So 9 days before the assassination, he writes, "Saw Clockwork Orange and thought about getting Wallace all through the picture, fantasizing myself as the Alex, but without my brothers. Just a little of the old ultraviolence. I decided Wallace could have the honor of, what would you call it? It seems I would have done better for myself to kill old G-Man Hoover. In death he lays with presidents." So he's like watching another mind control movie as a guy who has a very interesting history then influences Taxi Driver. Pretty crazy, huh?
Well, that diary too. That's just of course, Clockwork Orange. Burgess is that intelligence connection who created his own language, right? And this is also around the same era, but his discourse is like it's basically kind of word salad, right? It doesn't. But sometimes, if you look at Ericksonian hypnotic techniques, right? So Milton Erickson, the founder, which is a major influence on NLP, is embedded hypnotic commands within, words. It, could be sentences, but you emphasize the words, and he could just induce trance very quickly. So some of this stuff, and that's why, how big is the diary? I'm not familiar.
200 pages. 200 pages.
Have you read the whole thing?
I've skimmed it. I haven't done it in detail, but I'm definitely interested in reading it. I have the thing where I have the book by E. Howard Hunt somewhere where he openly denies writing it. But E. Howard Hunt could just drop a book so easily. He had like 27 27 fictional books under different names. So the guy was super talented, man. Incredibly smart, bright guy. I think he went to Brown. But he was also, they don't mention this in a lot of other stuff. E. Howard Hunt at one point was the head of the CIA office in Mexico City, probably the number one office, and then also became a head of domestic operations for the U.S., which is a totally illegal position. So he was around doing all kinds of subterfuge and culture creation and all kinds of stuff. So maybe these guys are involved in doing Catcher in the Rye. I don't know. I don't have that connection yet. I'm still working on it. But anyway, the Bremer's diary was a primary inspiration for screenwriter Paul Schrader's character Travis Bickle. Taxi Driver would be one of the inspirations for John Hinckley Jr. to shoot President Ronald Reagan. And then if you remember, like the intro scenes of the presentation that we did, the slides, these guys are pointing like a gun to their head. Right? Here's Bickle. That's how, like, the movie, this is the ending of Taxi Driver. So it's a pretty disturbing stew. And then we can go to Mission Mind Control. We will see one of, we did not cover this last time, one of Chapman's, can you hear the audio on this?
Yeah, sounds great.
This is one of Chapman's 6 different CIA affiliated doctors. This is Paul Gittinger. He was involved with if you remember, Midnight Climax.
Oh, Gittinger's very central figure.
Oh yeah,
absolutely major figure. Yeah, major figure.
I think the intel agencies would wish that Mission Mind Control was never made, because it was literally made right 79. So literally it's made before these assassinations take place. About the same year though, right? Like crazy timing. So this is Gittinger, but this next guy, of course they're bringing in Manchurian Candidate, the movie. But this is Klein. This is literally, I'm trying to get the very beginning. This is literally Chapman's shrink. Listen to this.
Something totally impossible seem absolutely credible.
I would say the answer is yes, but there are many qualifications to that.
Dr. Milton Klein, a psychologist, a clinical and experimental hypnotist, and unpaid consultant to the CIA.
The qualifications would be the subject selected to produce the kind of behavior that you wish, the amount of time, the procedures that are utilized, and the motivations of the people who are designing, executing, and administering the procedures. You're asking whether an individual can be, under hypnosis, influenced, coerced, persuaded, shaped to perform an antisocial act, or a destructive act, or an act of violence. My answer would be yes.
Captain Marco, will you be good enough to lend Raymond your pistol, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks, Ben.
Sure, kid.
Shoot Bobby Raymond. Through the forehead.
Yes, ma'am.
How valuable a tool can hypnosis be in the intelligence field?
None whatsoever. It has absolutely no use because nobody's ever been able to do that I know of, do it in an operationally feasible way. I'm not in any way saying that hypnosis doesn't take place. I'm not saying there's nothing to it.
I would say that most government agencies concerned with intelligence operations have been looking to hypnosis as a tool for a variety of purposes, one of which is to carry out and to execute certain intelligence operations on a basis where they would not have to rely completely on some of their own emotional reactions. Actually,
would that entail murder?
It could, if you consider that an act of killing someone under circumstances of war is murder. I think one has to define what that means.
Under circumstances of peace?
Under circumstances of peace, it would be murder.
Another former CIA agent says that Fidel Castro at one time was considered as a possible target for a Manchurian candidate.
Castro was naturally our discussion point. Could you get somebody gung-ho enough that they would go in and get him? But if you have 100% control of a guy, you have 100% dependency. If something happens and you haven't programmed it in, you've got a problem.
So in the end, it was decided that a Manchurian candidate was not feasible. But the search for mind control continued. But could the mind be controlled? Perhaps not. But is human behavior predictable? In this area, the CIA did make a significant breakthrough. A personality assessment system designed by the agency's chief psychologist, John Gittinger. It comes close to being able to predict how humans will behave.
It's really a descriptive system, an attempt to try to describe personality in a relatively systematic way so that hopefully you can get some kind of an idea to predict what the behavior between different kinds of individuals.
Gittinger's system had many uses in intelligence work.
One was to draw personality portraits of world leaders. Using Uettinger's system, the agency concluded the Shah of Iran is a brilliant but dangerous megalomaniac whose basic problems resulted from an overbearing father. And there were other applications.
Your assessment staff played a key role in helping other governments pick their police and...
You're muted.
The real key is that Klein is Chapman's doctor, and he's talking about creating a mind control
What?
assassin.
No,
before they become created.
I mean, we can't. I don't want to, take you far afield. There's so much of importance in this.
Yeah, it's an
because
amazing documentary.
Well, no, but
Ewan Cameron. It has all these other guys who were tested upon. We have what's this? There's the poisoner in chief. There's Olson. So all these guys, man, they're all in this 1 hour thing. It's off the charts. Transformation, all kinds of stuff. And there's George White. That's the guy who did the whole thing. We could just take apart this, like analyze this whole documentary, which may be another show. But yeah, you said you had something on Ewan Cameron about related to this stuff.
Well, yeah, no, we could. Yeah, I can bring that in. This is like this sort of a, a few threads that I just pulled some sort of musings together just right before we went live. But the one thing I want to say though, hypnotic trance. People really misunderstand what this is. Okay. So hypnotic trance induction through television. There was a ton of research done in the early 70s. So people think hypnotism is where, they call the person from the audience. They do all these crazy things. No, you can be in a hypnotic trance. So the first Macy conference, cerebral inhibition. It's cerebral inhibition. Okay, that's what hypnosis is. So there's a big misnomer about what hypnosis actually is and isn't. So that documentary is very important. But yeah, I'll just bring up just a few of these things. I mean, I don't know if I want to dive into that immediately, but so basically, so Salinger was in Defense Intelligence, counterintelligence corps, and he was part of the post-war reconstruction of Germany, including the interrogation of, where they used a lot of these techniques of like torture, LSD, memory erasing, some of that, the earliest precursors were rolled out. And so he was, involved, of course, Ernest Hemingway was there and several things, but so Ewan Cameron was in. This is a lot of these things are erased. I did a lot of research on this because I think this was the main. If you want to see the real-time laboratory for what happened to America, okay, in 5-6 years later or continuously was Germany. Germany was where you have a blank slate. You have Ewan Cameron, you have all these other people, including Salinger and many, many other, that you have the culture as a blank slate. And so the post-war, the total cultural control was there, right? You have a decimated population, totally traumatized, and all this stuff that was implemented. I mean, we can go through all kinds of crazy things. The Kinderladen movement, you know about that, where teachers are naked, kindergarten, we don't need to go into all that. But anyways, Ewan Cameron was, J.D. Salinger was there. I mean, now the level of connection may not, at least they were in the same place, same time, and they, were part of some of the same, projects. But again, so the denazification program is, oh, by the way, there's
Ewan Cameron. There's a book that I tried to find. It was about Ewan Cameron. He wrote about the psychiatric eval of Hess, and Hess always thought he was being tampered with or poisoned or something like that. So these are real things like this. You're right.
Well, no, but the thing was in Germany, it's like, if you look at a lot of the really advanced, say schismogenic in terms of actually inducing schizophrenia, etc., this was done in Russia. Why? Because you can experiment. You go from your dogs, your guinea pigs to actual children. You could maybe do that in the United States, but you may get caught, right? So Russia's a much better place because they could just do it. So Germany, you have a whole cultural laboratory, and every aspect, we're talking, music, society, religion, sexuality, you have like, publishing, the whole pornography was just rampantly disseminated, forced down everybody's throats in curriculums, right? I mean, all et cetera, et cetera. But Salinger was there. And so again, this is a direct connection. And let me see if I can, crap, it's not so important. The Time magazine cover of Salinger. Like I said, I don't want to take away. Have you seen the Time magazine cover?
I think so. I can probably bring it up, but yeah, it is interesting that they're both in Germany at the time, and there's all these thinkers are trying to solve the problem of making sure the German event doesn't happen again, right? So they don't want like another one. I think it was Marcuse that fed them with arrows, right? That's the whole idea.
Well, Herbert Marcuse, the Frankfurt School and all that. But here's the thing: if you're looking for let's drop the political rhetoric, because supposedly Salinger was also, there's allegations that he was part of, the paperclip and all that stuff. So, but the thing was that he was very secretive about his war stuff, and counterintelligence. But the thing is that if you want to do highly advanced industrial Western nations and you want to see how to reorder society, you want to see what you can do, things like rock and roll, you want to see this, that, what's going to happen. Germany is a perfect laboratory. You have the Germans were literally like lab rats for this cultural transformation. So it was a very, I went through lots and lots of, these documents, regarding that whole thing. But the fact that Salinger was right there at the heart of it, and in fact that many, in Battle of the Bulge, many other important events, and as I mentioned, Hemingway and other people. So this is a rich vein for research. And unfortunately, some of these these books I was getting off of like Google Books, they're no longer available. And Ewan Cameron's work is almost completely, you cannot find anything he wrote or published. Almost, they're
exactly.
Almost
I couldn't find it
gone.
either. It's gone.
They're gone. But there's one writer, Leela Hadley Luce. She's a relative of Luce, Time magazine,
in the Catcher in the Rye.
Yeah, but she was she knew Salinger, and this is a quote from one of Salinger bio. You felt he had the power to imprison someone mentally. That's a direct quote. Quote, you felt he had the power to imprison someone mentally. And then there's another quote. This is from Shields and Salerno, page 97. The few photos I have seen of Jerry, that's, Salinger, over the years are always clandestine type photos. He is hidden somehow. These photos offer a glimpse at how private Jerry was. He was extremely private about his past and what he did. More than private, secretive. And I gathered this was because of the war, because he was in counterintelligence. So, and there's lots more. I don't want to go too deep into this, but there's it just like that. But there is actually Ewan Cameron. There's the program, this post-war reconstruction, some of the interrogations. Both Salinger and Cameron were in the same venues,
among others, right? Like, I mean, that post-war stuff, they're all there. Casey and all these other characters that end up in the CIA, they're all in Germany at the time. They're fused. They're actually forged in kind of the crucible of World War II. But a lot of these intel people, it's hard to believe that they didn't know Salinger.
Well, but see, what I'm saying is that this is not like, you're not just like slumming at the, you're not working security at a baseball game. These are choice people. Yeah. These are highly sensitive, very, very important, high level intelligence things, right? That are of international significance that, were with both a lot of the, whether it's the, the mind control stuff, but also again, the whole cultural reconstruction model, which they were able to do in real time in Germany because they had almost, again, they're like rats in a maze. Right, they're rats. The whole, they had the whole invasion.
They're occupied. They're all occupied.
They're occupied.
It was bad. The West got away with like a lot of really gnarly stuff. Millions of people died in death camps, not death camps, but concentration camps.
Rhine Meadow death camps. Eisenhower, he just put them in the camps, and you just let them die.
Yeah.
You don't need any fancy technology, but you have the the Russian, Central Asian Russian rape armies that came through right after. I mean, more Germans died after World War II than died in World War II.
Yeah. The war didn't end like we are all 45. We're wrapping this up. Ha ha, it's over. No, they had years of like the worst type of treatment imaginable. It was horrible. Like, it's a really good book. I think it's called like Badlands or Deathlands or something. It was just like horrible, like the real stuff. I mean, I'm not saying the Germans were innocent by any means, but they got some brutal treatment. On the East, the Eastern Front was hellscape. Some of the most horrible stuff the world's ever seen. But yeah, I'm pretty much done. I'm fortunately got to wrap it up pretty soon. Do you have anything else you'd like to add, or?
Wait, I hope I didn't. Did I give you enough space? I hope I didn't step on
Tons. No, I'm done. I mean, that's all I got at this point. It keeps growing. Like, I keep learning from you and other people. Like, your unraveling of like that time before this published is really important.
Well, I mean, so just a few things on Salinger. And again, there's a guy that run for some government office in California that had, found this box of photographs from Salinger. That it's quite interesting. I have to track that down some years ago. I heard that, but I mean, he was with counterintelligence corporations, so denazification. I already mentioned that. Just a few things. Okay, so he talks about Egypt, right? In the book, there's references to Egypt. And so this Egyptian thing, this ties into the whole control grid, you could say the pharaonic control.
Or something.
Yeah.
I think that's what Atwell talked about.
Okay. Yeah.
Like going into the Museum of Arts or something, and then there's mummies or something like that. I think.
Yeah. But okay, of course we know that Holden, he hates Christianity, but so there's interesting from Franny and Zoe. I could not find my copy of Catcher in the Rye, but so this is he had a relationship with a underage girl, but this is just, I'll just read this real quick. Here we go. This is about his banana fish. Basically, I'll try to skim this. Miss Carpenter, please, I know my business, said the young man. You just keep your eyes open for any banana fish. This is a perfect day for banana fish. I don't see any, Sybil said, underage girl. This is understandable. Their habits are very peculiar. He kept pushing the float. The water was not quite up to his chest. They lead a very tragic life. You know what they do? Well, they swim into holes where there's a lot of bananas. They're very ordinary looking fish. When they swim in, when they get in, they behave like pigs. Why, I've known some banana fish to swim into a banana hole and eat as many as 75 bananas. So it's, actually it's a 4 or 5 year old girl. So the banana fish metaphor comes in. Salinger had an illegal love affair with 14-year-old Jean Miller in Florida and wrote he had sex with her, took her virginity and left her. And then,
he was 32. She was 14. So
yeah. And then, let's see. So there's also Peter Norton of Norton Antivirus bought his letters for $156,000 and then returned them to Salinger to prevent them from circulation. So he bought them at auction and returned them to Salinger. And that's Peter Norton Antivirus.
Right.
And that's from, that's Joyce Maynard. That's it. And then, and so there's, basically, we can go on and on, but there's all kinds of, there's all the symbolic levels of this. and this is of course your thing, but we have the psycholinguistic stuff, which you see also in Germany. And that's why I was a little bit highlighting on certain things, textual placement. So psycholinguistics it is a field of study, right? And print matter. And then again, I do this. We probably all do this, right? You read something, you kind of just, you're not, unless it's something very good, you're going to just try to get what's the essence of this article. You're not necessarily going to go line by line and break it down. All that's interpreted by the subconscious. But I think it's really fascinating, bringing up all these connections with all these assassins, and we find actually direct connections of potential. I mean, just maybe we can flesh out if he actually had intercourse, meaning discourse, talking with you and Cameron. That would be
incredible,
a very great interest. So.
But I think the psycholinguistics aspect is a way to look at this book. It has that psycholinguistic power. Like somebody knows that, like the repetitive phraseology and the words repeated all through the text, like. It's not accidental. It shows some kind of like intelligence to do that. And to know, like this guy, obviously Salinger's willing to, in his personal life, breach that kind of like barrier between adults and kids that should exist, or like the care adults should have for kids. He doesn't seem to care about that if he's a pedophile, right? So he's willing to maybe take this kind of coming of age book, this Buildings Roam On, and put all that garbage in there. Or his buddy or his handlers, who knows?
Yeah, and Salinger, was from a very elite, extremely wealthy background. So he was from the very top Upper East Side, like, the real, whatever, limousine type of crowd. So that's where he grew up. But he got when he was in the Army, he was given a disability disability status, basically for elite kids who'd have to go to the front lines. But he was intelligence. And in fact, he, there's lots of things. 1965, he and his wife watched their house burn to the ground. They stood there and watched their house burn down. Then he just disappeared. That's all these. And then he built a bunker, had some weird underground bunker by his house. You know about that?
Yeah. I've just heard weird stories about him as a recluse and hitting on women and multiple women flowing through his life. It's very strange.
I know he has like a crazy bunker, but yeah. So anyways, we'll go through all the symbolism, but there's such a, like, again, to the South Park thing, which is really, I think that was amusing, but really an excellent. There's a lot, I haven't watched South Park I remember when it first came out. Okay, I'm dating myself, but I have not, I don't normally watch network television, but that was really funny. I mean, it goes through everything. It's like, don't do this, don't take drugs. Oh, but this is about drugs. It's
right. So it's almost like that real way it affects kids. Like, this is a naughty book. Well, then of course the kids are going to want to read it, right? So isn't that phenomenon real? Like, hey, there's really bad stuff in here. Well, give me the book, right? Like, it has this reputation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, great, William. I don't want to take up more of your time. I do have, the reason I'm muting, I have we have quite cold weather here in Ohio, so I have a bit of a cold, and I'm just trying not to sneeze on camera, so the COVID police
I gotta run
take me away. But would you like to do some concluding remarks and just mention?
Yeah, I would just say your work. Another phenomenal discussion with you about an important book, and I'm sure there's more. Now that we're both thinking about it, we'll probably learn more about the context and creation of this incredible book with 65 million books sold worldwide, and this creation of this kind of character who's influenced so much of our culture, permeated the culture in strange ways. A character who is a nihilist and not really that positive. There's nothing really positive about him unless you're into kind of this cultural, things, I guess. But yeah, another great talk, and thanks for having me on your show.
Oh, well, thank you, William, and check out William Ramsey Investigates, hansutter.com. And before we go, again, I'm drawing people's attention to this stuff because when, I think, was it with you or I mean another thing, but I talked about the the doom scrolling or whatever, where
Yeah, no, you did that with Sean McCann. You did.
Yeah, just Sean McCann, but I think we mentioned also something else. But like that, I mean, it literally shrinks your brain.
Yeah.
I mean, but that being said, right, that's a drastic aspect, but these media inputs, this is where we take for granted we are, as material Homo sapien incarnate beings. We are, we have a lot of these things that are, constructed, for our survival, whatever our senses. The modern media as we know it is very new, right? This is not an ancient phenomena. This radio, we're talking when? I mean, I'd say 1930 on is where this modern sort of cultural thing has really come up, where we are. So just note again, this Time magazine cover that September 15th, 1961. What is the relevance of J.D. Salinger in 1961? What did he write, right? A great day for banana fish and Franny and Zoe. That's that Raise High the Roof Being Carpenters. I mean, these are books that are just nothing books. They're books you use it for wallpaper. But notice this: you have a cross on the hill. You've got he looks a little bit like Kinsey, a private world of love and death. A private world of love and death. That's the banner across this Time magazine of J.D. Salinger prior to the Kennedy assassination. And
he mentions Luce in the book. So Luce's Time magazine is like promoting this crazy.
But how, just throwing this out to the world before we leave, how did he get a cover page of Time magazine in 1961? He was gone. Like, what was his relevance to anything except for his clandestine intelligence work or his pedophilic activities, potentially? Who was he? Nobody. Who gave a crap about J.D. Salinger? Why is he on the cover and why not in 1951? Why in 1961? So we'll leave it there. And William, it's just always just wonderful to check this out. And every day we proceed forward, and as the higher levels of these technologies are ramped up, this is the baseline. It doesn't matter the vector of information is a smart, whether a smart device, whether it's a 5G grid, whether it's this or that. The basic parameters for unwinding this are the same, and the roots, from the roots you see the tree. So cut the roots, and then the tree will just fall.
Amen. Hans, thanks for having me. Great to talk with you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Peace.